Hey, welcome back again, everybody. Doug Kyle Holtz here, and this is my FTH 223 Module 1 assignment. We're doing something different today, but to start things out, there are no firearms, there are no pieces of ammunition, parts of ammunition, any of that stuff on or around my workspace here. To include all the way over there, I have some reloading components, but there's not full cartridges or anything, no primers, no powder, anything like that. It's just brass all the way up against my sheetrock sheets over there. So, today we're doing research, online research to find gun parts, and we were tasked with looking up 5 specific parts for the 6-hour P226, and I believe it was intended to be the original version, not the Legion, not anything else. But with the 4 websites we were supposed to go to, it was Numeric, Midwest Gunworks, Midway USA, and Brownells. And it's kind of funny. I've been on almost every one of these sites, but to see the differentiation between the sites was absolutely something else. So to start off our part 1 and 2, we were tasked with finding schematics for the weapon on each of these websites. So starting from the top, I've got Numeric, where you can actually go through and search by pistol type, manufacturer, and everything, and it'll pull up the schematics. And one really cool feature about this is as you go through, out of the 5 parts we had, let's say we want to find our extractor, it'll pull up all the parts for you and let you know what's available, what the price is for it, and it gives you a whole bunch of differentiations based off of the finish, the whether it's new or used, whether it's a different style of make, or it has a different product that it's made of or material that it's made of, and so on. And then something I haven't seen before was the DAK acknowledgement or acronym instead of double action only, double action, single action. I've never seen DAK, and I had to do some research on it. So apparently DAK stands for double action Kellerman. I'll have to do some more research on that and figure out what the differences are. But the Numeric website, super easy to go through and actually hunt down the parts that you need. And it was really fun to go through and look at this. For the Midwest Industries website here, or Midwest Gunworks, the really cool thing about this is that the schematics are enlarged, first off, for anybody that may have a hard time seeing, but also they're reactionary. So let's say another item we were looking for was the hammer. We click on the hammer there inside the actual blow up, and it pulls up all the parts that are not only in stock, but what's been discontinued and so on. So you have a bunch of different variations to see. Okay, there might be a reason that this thing was discontinued. You might need to call out to the manufacturer and whatnot to figure out what you're doing or what needs to happen. So this made it really easy. Again, tons of options. It also tells you what's in stock, and it gives you the price ready to go on there. Brownells, the third website, made it a lot more difficult. I could not find the schematics directly through the website, no matter how I searched, what prompts I put in or anything. I had to actually go back to the Google machine and punch it back in, and it pulled up the schematics. However, they're super shrunk up, and what really drives me nuts about this, I hate websites that don't work. So Brownells, please fix this. I'm going to click on the hammer here, number 18 for the icon. It says it's not available, but if I go through here on off of my notes, one of the icons that I do click on, it doesn't work. It doesn't pull up the part. So please, if you're going to use this and make it interactive, make it actually work. For Midway, it didn't matter what I put in, what kind of search, the Google search or anything. They don't have schematics. I don't know. I feel that Midway USA has fallen off over the last couple years due to their location. They're right next to the University of Missouri, and all the insanity that's happened there over like the last decade. They're still next to it and paying state taxes and county taxes and all that stuff. So I feel like they're being strangled off slowly but surely. But they actually had Midway USA had more parts available than Brownells did, but there was no access to schematics or blow-up views. So if I were to rank these 1 through 4, I would say that both Numeric and the Midwest Gunworks, I put them at a number 1. Brownells would be a very, very distant number 2, only because I could look up the schematics, but based off of parts accessibility and whatnot, they would be dead last because they don't have access to as many parts, which is funny because it's the site that I shop the most on. Midway USA, I haven't seen a video with Larry Potterfield smiling in a while, so hopefully he's okay. But long story short, a lot more access to parts. However, prices varied and whatnot. So that completes my part 1 and 2. For parts 3 through 5, I'm going to set everything up so that you can view my computer screen, and we'll talk through the parts availability and what all we learned in our takeaways from this lesson. Be right back with you. Okay, it was a little bit too difficult to go through and try and put everything on note cards and fight my way through it. I still have some, but we'll talk about our Excel spreadsheet we created here. So talking about numeric here, we had the most options. Plus, when we're looking at each of these parts, you know, they were based off of whether they were new or used, different upgrade styles, different types of components or material that was being used, and so on. So it was really, really awesome to see that. When we talk about Midwest Gunworks, it was somewhat similar. You know, they had a very good breakdown, plus it was very simple to find the parts. And here are all the prices for both those websites. You know, the only one that I was not able to get my hands on if I were to order today would have been the one that's in red, and that's based off of it being available for back order or at least notification when it came back in stock. Moving on to Midway and Brownells, or Brownells first and then Midway. As you can see, there were very few parts. I decided to make this the only one that I actually have missing parts on, but as you can see, I was only able to find the first 2 parts, which was the extractor and ejector. So moving down to Midway, we do have a couple things that are out of stock and back order is okay, or the special order for the additional ejector. But here are all the prices. Here's the availability. If it's not color-coded in some way, shape, or form, with the exception of the 2 hot links up top for numeric, then it's available. Okay, closing out for our part 5, we had a couple questions here we needed to answer. Were the parts fairly easy to find while researching them? On some of the websites, they actually were. When it comes to Brownells and Midway USA, I know that with certain products they have, the filtering system works during searches. However, you know, there are ins and outs for both of them. Both Numeric and Midwest Industries had great search capabilities and the ability to click on the actual part if you didn't know what the name of it was and figure out what it was. Quality versus price, and am I comfortable putting these parts in? You know, I would have to say that goes to the OEM argument versus aftermarket parts. I have seen instances where, like me as a Glock guy, I've seen some aftermarket parts that have been questionable. I've also seen some business upstarts that have had issues, namely like a gun that I used to own that blew up on me. I had an action actually pretty much detonate on me due to bad metallurgy. So for safety's sake, unless it's a company that I know or I've got a kicking and screaming customer who I have to tell, like, hey man, I would go OEM over, you know, aftermarket, I would always go towards the OEM. I went through and I looked at some additional research here, and I found 3 additional websites. The first was Gray Guns, and they had aftermarket parts. The only couple parts that I could find that would be somewhere close, if not related to the 5 parts we were looking for, was they did have replacement hammers. They had a custom hammer strut packet that had additional mainsprings in it so that you could go through and play with that a little bit and try and get what you needed. And they had a mainspring packet where you had additional spring weights that you could tailor to fit your weapon. The next website was NDZ Performance. They had the mainspring and then 2 variants of the extractor. The difference between the 2, I believe, was caliber based. The 357 SIG, the 40 cal, and the 38 Super models they came out with, most of which I don't know if they're still in production, but on Numeric and on Midwest, you could see that there was parts there, but on every other website I haven't been able to find them. The last was the SIG site. If you go to the small parts shopper portion, they've got everything that you need for all 5 parts. And you know for a fact that they're coming OEM, or they are replacement parts that have been upgraded due to issues they've had out in the field or complaints they've received from customers. Some other things I'd like to talk about here is the cost of the parts versus the availability. So an issue that you may have is coming across and you need to order 5 parts, but you can't find all 5 parts on the same website. The problem you're going to run into is sales tax and additionally the shipping for both parts. And that's something that you have to explain to the customer to let them know that, hey, it's more expensive due to this fact, and this isn't even counting the labor. Or if you were nice to them and you didn't charge them for the search time frame, it could help out greatly. That's why like the Excel spreadsheet would be very easy for them to see something like that. It takes about 20 minutes, 30 minutes of research to do, but it's something that you can utilize to help you out with your quote prior to talking about the labor for changing these parts out. Another thing I'd like to talk about would be, the gamble that they may have talking about those aftermarket parts. There is no guarantee that those aftermarket parts are going to fit. So looking at like match grade parts for 1911, those parts are intended to be oversized and must be hand fitted. So letting them know that, hey, if I get these aftermarket parts, there may be additional labor costs in there due to me having to fit these or tune these and get these to the proper shape, size, and spring tension or whatever to ensure that the weapon is operating safely and that it's doing everything that it's supposed to do during the cycle of operations. This is a pretty fun exercise here, a pretty fun assignment. Next week, we'll be getting into different stuff, so look forward to seeing you back there. And if you got any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments below. Have a good one.